Double tracking there.
Wow.
Greetings, everyone. Good to see you all tonight. Welcome to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway to community, support, love, friendship. And welcome back to Esoteric Egypt, Part 5. We were going to be joined tonight with a friend from named Annie XD from Adept Expeditions, and he'll be on next Friday for a second segment of this show. So for this evening, and we wish him well with his dental surgery from this morning and some technical issues he's been running into. So we hope he heals quickly and can be with us next Friday. We'll go into some greater details about some of his experiences in Egypt. But in the meantime, we have this segment that Dalibor has stepped into. Gladly. Thank you so much, Dalibor. We're going to talk about a couple of interesting finds under the desert grounds for the pyramid at Hawara, as well as the pyramid over the Bent Pyramid, and some similarities going on there and what we think, and the research Lori has found on that. Dalibor has looked into it, and it's some really interesting things that might be going on. There's a lot of speculation, but there's also a lot of research underway to help back up some of these theories. So keep that in mind when you're listening tonight, that we're just reporting things as we see them and sharing some of our ideas about what they might be. And we'll leave it up to you to make up your own minds about what we're showing you tonight. So we're not saying anything set in stone. Oh, no pun intended. But there are a lot of things to consider here that affect our development and growth over time as a people. So with that, I'll kick it over to, and then welcome Dalibor. I think Karen may or may not try to link in a little bit later. Trina's on her way home. Said she was driving over an hour to get here. And Jules might jump in at the end like she usually does. So go ahead, Dalibor.
Well, the pyramid complex at Hawara is, for the most part, mostly underground. What they discovered is they did some satellite imaging using radar, and they found a huge complex of underground temples. These are like up to 1.7 kilometers in length. The total length of all the passages, with several hundreds of rooms, and they're all on 3 different levels, which shows us one thing, that they were constructed at different time periods and independently of each other, because these levels appear to not be connected in any way.
Right.
When they did the 3D modeling based on the satellite imagery, they found out that there's no interconnection between any of the rooms on the 3 distinct levels. There's also a complex of rooms and passages beneath the Hawara pyramid itself. This is a bit off to the side, which leads me to believe that this is probably a lot older than the pyramids themselves, because even Herodotus, the famous Greek historian, mentioned this in his writings, and mentioned that it was very old even back then. So because the levels are not connected, it leads me to believe that it was constructed in the same place, most likely as a hall of records, but independently of the other levels, because they probably didn't know about them, because they were buried. I don't think they were intentionally buried. I think they were built on the surface, but over the eons, the sands got in there, because as we all know, when Egypt was discovered in the modern era by Europeans, there was a whole bunch of sand there that they had to remove. The Sphinx was up to its neck in sand. So that gives you an idea of how much sand had to be removed. So this wasn't necessarily a complex that was intentionally buried underground, but it was more like constructed above ground and then became underground as the eons went by.
Right. Then we have the, I'm going to say hi to the chat room members once more of them roll in. But in the meantime, the other side of this is a different pyramid, which is not too far away from this one. And it's called the Bent Pyramid. Is that right?
The Bent Pyramid of Seneferu.
And that one is very interesting too, although it has its own complex metropolis area outside of it, but it's not underground, so it's not a labyrinth. It's above ground. And now and that one predates the construction of Hawara, is it?
Hawara.
Yeah, does
Hawara.
it predate it? Does it predate it? Because if they're supposed to be all built by the same guy, right?
Yeah, that would have been Seneferu himself. Seneferu is the alleged architect of the Great Pyramid itself. He built it allegedly for King Cheops or Khufu. He was an architect. He was a royal architect, and he wasn't like a god, but he became worshipped as a god in the later kingdom.
All right. Well, let's say hi to some folks, and then Lori has some slides that she's put together so that everybody in the audience can get a feel for the
what we're
environment,
talking about.
what we're actually talking about, and then then we can kick off a more detailed discussion. But that's a great overview of what we're of the areas. And thank you, Mandy, for joining in. Mandy's got some downloads about this too from a spiritual perspective that she can share with us. So let's start off by saying hello to everyone. Welcome our sister Julianne. She's always in there saying thank you for your love and joy and your talents and always. David Castle, he's always there saying hi to everybody. Thank you, David, for being here. And let's see who else we got. Hey, Delaney, hi, sister. And
Lucky
we have
Stone.
Audrey. Good to see you tonight, Audrey. Sorry, Annie XD will be in next week. She's a friend of Annie XD and his wife, and she referred him to us to bring on the show, even though some of us follow him on Facebook. So we thank you, Audrey, for your contribution in that regard, because we're going to hear all about his tour packages. And let's see, we have Brenda. Hi, Brenda. Good to see you, sister. As always, Elderberry, my brother Barry Bro. Good to see you, Barry. Let's see who else we got in here.
Lucky Stone's here with
Lucky
us
Stone.
as well.
Truth Seeker. Hi, Truth.
Yeah. Jaya Shear, good to see you.
Yeah. Yeah, you can see more than I can on here, probably.
No, you're getting it. You got
Suzanne. Suzanne is here. Greetings, Suzanne. Thank you for coming.
Good to see you.
All right. Well, let's let Lori put her, and I am kind of tired, so I'm going to be stuttering a little bit tonight, which happens to me when I get really tired because I was stranded all day in my
rain?
car trying to get help, and I couldn't get my engine to start, and I was out in the pouring down rain, and it was a 4-hour ordeal. I had to do a lot of walking, and I had to make a lot of calls. I finally got home a little while ago, so I'm a little like that. But I put it out there. I was like, please, universe, send me help. And it did. So
awesome.
I got some people to help me out. So go ahead, Lori, with your slides.
Right. I just wanted to acknowledge Niall Parkinson is in the house with us. Hi, Niall.
I think
nice to have you. Is it Neil?
I think it's Neil. Yeah.
Okay. Neil.
I think.
And
he can tell me if I'm right. Hi, Neil.
I hate to butcher people's names because you just never know.
Remember, Neil, this is esoteric stuff, okay?
Yeah.
We're not going to be 100% point on with every archaeological fact that's out there. Neil is very educated.
A perspective. Yes.
So
yeah.
He does a lot of research himself. And so we're touching on a lot of the pieces here, Neil. It's not just the history.
Yeah.
Actually, my only claim to fame is the fact that I actually visited ancient Egypt, but only once. And I only went inside the Great Pyramid once, and I saw the Egyptian Museum. Other than that, I've had a lifelong interest in Egypt, and especially the phenomena connected with the pyramid itself.
Yeah.
All right.
Amazing.
All right. Well, Lori, do you want to go ahead and give us an overview? Or?
Yeah. Let me get that pulled up. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yep.
Excellent.
And it is Nile, like the river in Egypt. Nile. Lori.
Okay, Nile. Thank you. Sorry, Nile. I'll get that right next time. Thanks for telling me. All right. So Hawara, Sneferu. The Bent Pyramid. The Bent Pyramid is an ancient Egyptian pyramid located at the royal necropolis of Dashur, approximately 40 kilometers south of Cairo, built under the Old Kingdom Pharaoh Sneferu. 2600 BC, a unique example of early pyramid development in Egypt. This was the second pyramid built by Sneferu, and the bent pyramid rises from the desert at a 54-degree inclination, but the top section, above 47 meters, is built at the shallower angle of a 43 degrees, lending the pyramid a visible bent appearance. This just gives you an idea of where it's located. So the Nile comes, this is the Nile River here that runs through it, cuts right through it, and then it's on that far side there. So that's where it's located.
Oh, and up above that pin drop to the right, where the top part of the green area looks like the seawater.
Yes.
That's Alexandria, where the Great Library of Alexandria was. That'll come up later in our discussion.
Pretty close, actually. Awesome.
Yep.
Hawara then and now. So this shows the labyrinth underground. Let's see. That is now, and then what it looked like. And then at the bottom here, you've got what it looks like today. And then on the lower right, that shows the potential labyrinth that is underneath there, which I believe is there because of some of the scans that the scan that we're gonna show you next. Just so you know. So this is the scan, and the depth is 8 meters, and you can see some of the blue, I believe, would be the water. So you can see some blue, but lots of caverns, lots of open spaces under there. So there's obviously a cavern there and things underneath. The design of the Pyramid of Hawara. The burial chamber of the Pyramid of Hawara was cut out of a rock in the very beginning in the shape of a rectangle. Then a large single piece of quartzite was put inside the cavity of the burial chamber, the most important section of any pyramid of the tomb in ancient Egypt. And this allowed it to become a room with 4 walls, with each wall being 0.5 meter thick, 7 meters high, and 2.5 meters wide. In spite of all these precautions carried out to protect Amenhotep III's pyramid, thieves were able to enter the burial chamber through an opening in the ceiling and plunder all the valuable and important items that the priests had put inside. So all that got taken away. This, Teresa, you want to explain this one? This is your...
Yeah, this is part of the excavation at the foot of the Hawara pyramid. And they believe it to be the top layer or the first layer of the labyrinth section. But keep in mind that a lot of the complexes around these pyramids were like little metropolises of their own. You know, they had sections for temple worship, other temples, and so forth. So there's a lot of speculation as to whether or not you're seeing the very first layer of this supposed labyrinth that's deeper under the sand. But from everything that I've been looking at so far, this to me is not part of the labyrinth, but really part of the temple complex that's usually associated in and adjacent to some of these pyramids. But I'm not an expert.
Right.
I'm just saying that it's not
be my guess
deep
too.
enough. It's not deep enough under the sand to really be associated with the levels of the layers. But on the other hand, there's another photo that we can't show you here, but it shows the basement, if you will, of the pyramid, because they dug down underneath the pyramid a little bit to get an idea of its foundation and structure. And there's a portal, a doorway with a post and a lintel way down deep that would go under this section. So there's some other type of structure down deep. Perhaps it's an opening to the labyrinth. But then again, they may not have even known they were building on top of that labyrinth. It's just that it's a sacred place close to the Nile River where there's a water source, and they always built over ley lines, and they always built close to water. So they may or may not have known they were building on top of that labyrinth. But there is a doorway and a portal that's down pretty darn deep. What's it doing that far down under the sand?
Yeah.
But we all know that some of these pyramids also have underground systems, underground complexes, tunnels, walkways, corridors, chambers. So it may have been leading to some other chamber, but so far they haven't discovered anything other than what they think might be the labyrinth. So this is their first layer that they're uncovering.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. That's
Yeah.
what I read about.
So the labyrinth, ancient Egypt right here, this shows the labyrinth. You've got a couple different pics. And then
okay. The one in the upper left-hand corner is an artist's rendition of what they believe the typical type of labyrinth construction would have been used by the Egyptians. Differs from those in Greece, but closely related to the Greek versions of the labyrinth. I think Herodotus talks about this in detail in some of his notes about how they're constructed. And so what they're showing you is what other labyrinths may have looked like. The picture right under it is the actual assumption based on some of their land radar of what they think the labyrinth might look like here at Hawara.
Yeah, it's interesting to note too that these compartments here are the size of Olympic swimming pools, and the slabs that cover them are one solid piece, and they're about 20 tons each. So that securely seals each of these compartments, and they're all singly done. So that could be really difficult to get into for even a grave robber. You'd have to. that would be tough.
At first glance, if you look at the pyramid of Hawara in the right hand photo, it looks exactly like a bent pyramid, like the bent pyramid of Sneferu.
Well, yeah, but they're saying that it was actually constructed more like a regular pointed pyramid, but that over time it's collapsed because it's been raided so many times and stripped both internally and externally.
Yeah. But you can see this edge here. See the edge where it just gives you that sloping effect.
Yeah, but it could be Dalibor. It could very well be another.
And look how old that is. I mean, you can see water damage, all kinds of stuff. That is super old.
Yeah, because the same slope you would see that same slope in the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan.
Yep. Now, I believe this is the bent pyramid, so this is kind of what NEXT is going to talk about a little bit. But he's got some videos, and he's shown going through here and doing tours, and it's very interesting. If you guys get a chance to go check it out, it is super interesting.
Well, it was constructed, unusual construction that they believe predates any other type of technology used for construction of pyramids. And if that's the case, then it's more along the lines of the years that it wouldn't have been built by Sneferu, and it wouldn't have been from the time period that they think they had originally dated it to. It would actually be a lot older and closer to the Great Pyramid. But a lot of people assumed it was a mistake, that it was constructed inappropriately because of the way that it collapsed on them internally when they were building it. NEXT has another story on that, so I can't wait to hear his explanation of it. And I mean, I've seen his videos, so I know what he's saying. But this one, if this one was yet another one, then that would mean it was built purposefully. And what is the reason for a bent pyramidal construction? You know. Also, the bent pyramid, if you go back to that slide with the bent pyramids, it's a pyramid within a pyramid. So there's one pyramid encompassing another pyramid, and there's chambers in between and hallways in between with lots of twists and turns, right, Dalibor?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly the same phenomena that we see in another bent pyramid, and that would be the Pyramid of Kukulkan in the Yucatan. Which also has like a second pyramid inside it, or I should say first pyramid. And I would argue that that's also a bent pyramid. Why? Because you have two different angles. You have the angle of the sides, and you have the angle of the stairs, and the stairs have a smaller angle than the sides, because the stairs are wider at the bottom than they are at the top.
Well, you know, the one you're talking about in the Yucatan has more than two pyramids. It's more like 3 layers.
I know. Yeah, a lot of the Mexican pyramids had like extra stairs, which the Egyptian pyramids didn't. But
Right.
this one had two different slopes, and the
Mm,
purpose of that was to incorporate two different numbers, 5 and 6, because if you calculate the angles of the bottom half of the pyramid of Seneferu, that would correspond. If you built a pyramid of that same height, that would correspond to a six-sided pyramid. Whereas if you take the angle of the top half of the Sneferu pyramid, that would correspond to the height of a five-sided pyramid. And so you're encoding the numbers 5 and 6, and both of these are divisible evenly into 360 by
hmm
60 and 72 respectively.
Right.
So that there was clearly some kind of an intention with
hmm
doing that.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. Hi, Genevieve. Crystal. Good to see y'all. Thanks for coming.
Just quickly,
Go ahead, Mandy.
sorry. So they are bent and it's like almost directional to one side. It's not like this, correct? And you said there's more than one of these bent pyramids?
Well, he's thinking that the one at Hawara might have been
I think it
bent
might have been
pyramid.
a bent pyramid as well.
And there's
So-
one in South America as well, right?
In the Yucatan Peninsula in
Yeah.
Mexico.
It would be interesting to see if there's more of these bent pyramids, which way they actually lean and if they face towards each other or somewhere of significance.
Yeah. Well, didn't you? I think actually Annie XT mentioned that the bent pyramid is facing a certain way. So that's in his videos, but I can't remember which way he said it was. I think it was off to the east. I'm not sure. But yeah, there might be some significance to that. But what's more important is they didn't find any evidence at all when they went in there of any kind of burial chamber. They found the chambers, but there were no remains. There were no sarcophaguses.
No.
In fact, they were residence chambers. They were built and constructed in such a way for energy and sound and ritual.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I believe
Yeah.
that.
But it's interesting that although no human remains were ever found in any pyramid, you do have like death paraphernalia inside a lot
Yeah.
of them. Like, for example, inside the Great Pyramid, you have the sarcophagus. Inside the Pyramid of Kukulkan that NEXT researched, you have the Shakmul figure, and the Shakmul it's a halfway reclining and standing up, sitting down figure holding a bowl, and this was usually the bowl that they would put the sacrificial victims' hearts inside of.
Yeah.
So that was
Yeah.
definitely like ritual paraphernalia. So although no dead bodies were ever found inside
Yeah.
there, there was indications of like something to do with death or transition.
McFree, be careful out there, Michelle. Michelle's out there doing her evening walk and meditation with her son.
Genevieve has joined us, and Gazakov has joined us as well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So let's get back to the labyrinth, because this is fascinating. Some people are suggesting, and I forget the name of the lady that you
Carmen Bolter.
yeah, she was suggesting connections to. Now, how do people do this? How do they surmise all this without facts or without any kind of artifacts? She's surmising that it goes all the way back to Atlantis.
Well, it's an interesting hypothesis. I wouldn't even call it a theory. I would call it a hypothesis.
Hypothesis, okay.
That should be tested in some way, except that it's very difficult to date artifacts that are inorganic, that are that old. So at this point, it's more like it's more something between speculation and hypothesis. Although, all indications would serve to indicate that there was a pre-existing civilization that built or that inspired all the pyramids that we see globally, not just in Mexico, not just in Egypt, but China, Bosnia, all of those places, and also the commonalities that we see in things like the writing system. Like, for example, most people know that just like we write from left to right, that, for example, in the Arabic world and in the Hebrew world, they write right to left. That's because there's a greater number of left-handed people. So it's logical. When you're writing with your left hand, you don't want to smudge what you've just written, and also you want to see what you've just written. So if you're left-handed, you're going to be inclined to write from right to left.
Right.
So, but interesting thing is that Mayan glyphs and Egyptian hieroglyphs were always written from left to right, just like we do, left to right, top to bottom. But the interesting commonality between them is the fact that anytime you have a glyph depicting an animal or a human, the human or the animal is always facing left, and that's something I found kind of interesting. Or even like a body part, like in Egypt, in ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, you have the lower leg symbol that's also facing left, or the hand symbol that's also facing left. And you also have common symbols like that lentil shape that looks kind of like a UFO, where in Mayan symbology that indicates zero, whereas in Egyptian symbology that indicates the letter R of all letters. You know, it doesn't make much sense because you don't close your lips when you're saying the letter R.
Yeah.
You know?
Niall, excuse me, says here, logically, the age of these structures and the fact that they have not completely enveloped us leads to only one conclusion, in his opinion: an abandoned engineering project globally.
I'd say that's a valid
yeah.
That's a valid
It's another
theory,
perspective of this.
The interesting thing is, can they confirm a date on the pyramids? Can they confirm a date on the Sphinx? There's still argument in science today, which came first, the Sphinx or the
like
pyramid,
the chicken or the egg.
Yes, and then ultimately it's they can't date it. They're surmising how old. This is where when you say how can they just go? It's on a theory. Well, so much of science and what we know about Egypt is technically it's just theory because
right.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can only assume based on architectural styles, like for example, with the megaliths. Wherever you have megaliths, they're usually like the oldest and the bottommost stones of any structure. And usually these structures got recycled. Like for example, at Baalbek, Lebanon, you have megalithic huge stones that weigh like hundreds of tons that serve as the base, and they were obviously moved there from somewhere else because the stone is not native to that area, with smaller stones on top and even smaller stones on top, which are usually like a Roman temple to somebody like Jupiter. So we know that, as time went on, civilization got less and less able to deal with these really big stones. That there was a tendency to use smaller stones. So based on that, we're assuming that there were commonalities between all the megalithic structures, which you see at places like Sacsayhuaman in South America, or which you see in the Sphinx enclosure, which are megalithic marshmallow stones, as they're known. So that's a commonality. So that's what's behind the assumption that the Sphinx enclosure is possibly older than the pyramids, because the pyramids have simple straight-sided stones, not the marshmallow stones that you see at Sacsayhuaman or even Machu Picchu. So in other words, the oldest structure there, like for example at Giza, would probably be the Sphinx, because obviously that's a natural formation that was formed into the shape of an animal-human hybrid of some kind, with the enclosure built around it.
What is the spiritual significance? Okay, what is the significance, both spiritual and not, of a labyrinth? We talked about this before the show. What's the purpose of a labyrinth besides an entertainment game like a maze?
Finding your way.
So a program for initiates?
Could have been a contest.
What do you think, Mandy?
So it's finding your path. It's a journey to go within and then to come back out into the world. So it's finding your path on that soul journey. So it's a thing of wholeness is a labyrinth.
Okay. The amount of energy and resources to build something that significant and that large and that grandiose
Mm-hmm.
to practice that belief. It's just
It
amazing
seems like a
to
lot
me.
to go through for
It's
that.
so it has.
Yeah.
So I
I
would
think
think it had to have both that and a practical experience to do exactly what Mandy just described through initiation rites, where you go through
Well,
different stages of the maze and focus on different aspects of your. Maybe it was part
it's
of becoming pharaoh. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
We
It's
still don't know how to
also
move stones like that to this day, do we? We still
well,
cannot
Exactly.
quarry and move them.
it's
Uh,
also it could also be a thing of like our own cultural overlay, in that we're assuming these things based on our own culture. But let's say, for example, 30,000 years from now or 50,000 years from now, some archaeologist uncovers our cities. Well, what is he going to uncover underneath our houses? He's going to uncover like the sewer systems, the gas systems,
Yeah.
and he's going to let's say
Wow.
those beings in the future, let's say they don't need toilets, for example, and so they're going to be pondering based on their own assumptions, like, oh my god, they have these huge 3 foot wide or 1 meter wide round passages leading from house to house. Like, what the hell were they for, you know?
Sorry, I'm
So
just thinking that we're looking at this as a great labyrinth, and ultimately you're saying this might be Egyptian's toilet system.
exactly, we don't know.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Mandy,
Wow.
that could be.
It's
Huh.
either full of information or full of crap. Either way, we're
You
going
know,
to learn
You'll
something.
find out when you find. You'll find out when you find the bones of dead alligators swimming through the hallways in the labyrinth, and you go, it's a sewer system.
Yeah, that's right, and
Interesting.
that's right. Like
Now,
I
Lori,
said, it's cultural overlay, so we gotta think outside the box a little bit.
yeah. Now, Lori, you have you have
An
something that you'd like to share
interesting
about
take.
it.
Yeah. So what I did is this morning when I was talking to my guide, knowing that we were going to be discussing this, I asked him if he could tell me anything about it. And I know that nobody's going to believe this, and that's okay. But he gave me some information about it. And if this all comes to fruition and we find out that this is true, it could be quite fascinating. So I asked him, and he said that that this pyramid and the structure that's underneath it holds many secrets. It's bigger than you can imagine, he says. He says there's many chambers and sublevels. It holds many archives from the past. Each layer holds more information than a computer, held in hieroglyphs that have not been seen before. This is all concepts-driven information. He said that they'll find copies of the Iliads and may hold ancient texts from Atlantis. And he also mentioned Herodotus and Strabo had the opportunity to visit and record the labyrinth before it was lost to history.
Oh.
So that is from a spiritual aspect, and I thought it was interesting to share. Can't prove anything of it, but it sure is interesting to think
Well,
about.
I don't think you're alone. I think that there's a lot
That
of folks
it
that
could
have
be
been
an
getting
ancient labyrinth or a ancient library, basically, with
Now,
lots of
we have
ancient
Or it could
knowledge.
have been a treasury, because back then the economy was based on gold. So and usually the person who was in charge of the economy was the pharaoh or the king or whatever, and he would have wanted to have as much of that gold under his own control as possible, which means hiding it in a place where nobody knows about it and a place where nobody can see it. So
our guest Twilly Mist. Good evening. I don't think I've ever seen Twilly
Hey,
Mist
Trina.
here before. Hi, Trina. Welcome, sweetie.
Good to see you.
But Twilly Mist says, let's see.
Good job.
After certain earth changes, when human consciousness has declined, that's where the sacrificial implements were brought into the pyramids with a fallen version of spirituality, methinks. Could very well be. Could very well be. Trina, have you been listening in the car while you were driving or getting ready, or?
Yeah, other than trying to run a blow dryer real quick and running to try to grab
and
some water.
yourself.
Yeah.
No coffee? I feel
bad. Yeah, I might have to run. If I disappear, you'll know where I went, because
It's no problem. Thanks for joining us. I know you had a long drive.
Yeah.
That was one big estate you were on.
Oh, every day.
Wow.
Yeah, but that
Wow.
one's extremely big. It's new too. Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez. Well, then you're
Yeah.
all to go exploring pyramids someday.
I would love to. I absolutely would
Mhm.
love to. And
That'd
I
be
do. I
great.
think you guys are so right about the sound references and the chamber effects of transmutation and the different
Mhm.
pyramids. I think did different things, and it's such a powerful thing.
I would love to go with NEXT on one of his expeditions,
Me
except that
too.
until
Yeah.
this whole COVID thing is resolved, like
Makes it
forget it.
difficult. Yeah.
Because
Well-
I can't wear the mask, which means I can't. How am I going to get from Prague to Cairo? You know, there's no way I
Mhm.
can drive there.
Mm-mm.
You know,
Yeah.
by
Use the
airplane it
underground
takes 4
tunnels.
hours. Underground tunnels, yeah.
There you
dig
go.
my own. Dig
Under-
my own.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Build a lab. Okay. So anyway, back to what we were talking about with the labyrinth, Trina. We were just discussing. I was trying to get a feel for what is the importance and purpose behind building a labyrinth, and we all know that people in the 1800s and 1900s loved building garden mazes. You know those mazes people used to have on these big estates. I'm sure Trina's even seen some with some
Mhm.
of her clients. So it's always been a source of entertainment, meditation. Sometimes people just like to go and be with the flowers and meditate. But the idea of a maze. So Mandy just brought up the whole cycle of development, personal development of finding yourself, working your way through to the middle of it, and then finding your way back. But
I think, yeah.
Go ahead.
I think it's also too a very direct representation of the matrix and of all the different twists and turns in our lifetime, and we run into lots of dead ends, and there's only a few ways that keep you where you're actually on the correct path. I think it's a metaphor for life and the twists and turns, and I think in Egypt there's references to the labyrinth being it was almost like a tomb of souls, a place where the souls could go. And there's actual talk that there might actually be a physical labyrinth buried under the sand, and that this beautiful labyrinth was literally an honoring of the souls, and it was like a place where they could go and they could stay and rest, and they would set up little decorations for them and stuff like that. So I think it's vast in its terminology and meaning, and I think a lot of it's metaphor. And speaking to Egypt, I think it's about like an underworld recovery place for souls who wanted a safe place to go and hang out. And
that
rest.
explains why they put all that time and effort and energy
That's
and
what I
resources
was
into it.
Thinking, sure.
Because
Is a
I mean,
lot
it's huge, it's massive, and those stones are
Yeah.
not light. It's a
Yeah.
lot of construction.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's got
Well, and I can't
passages.
see how they even applied those stones, those 20-ton slabs that are as big as Olympic swimming pools, to cover those areas in that labyrinth. I mean, how were they even able to do that?
What if that was what if that's when the gods actually were here and they literally brought technology and they showed us how to do these things? I mean, it's the only
Or they
thing that makes
assisted
sense.
them. Yeah, me too. That's exactly what I think too.
Well, that's what I think. I
It
think
just
they
makes
totally
sense.
did. And
It's-
I mean,
yeah,
we still can't do that today. We still can't move
Nope.
stones that large. We have no cranes, no nothing that can hold them. They all fall over.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's definitely anti-gravity technology. And probably utilized with sound and vibration. And I think they were levitating these things. And I think they showed them technology to how to cut these things with laser beam precision and lock these blocks in just like jigsaw puzzles.
And I don't want to
Could
leave
you imagine? Could
I
you
don't wanna
imagine if
leave
that
out-
was coming again?
No.
They're coming again. Could you? I have a feeling we might be in one of those potential timelines. With
What if you look?
yeah.
What if you look at it from the non-technological point of view? So you become one with. Okay, so the meditation, become one with. So vibrating on the same resonance as something. So if I have this crystal and I vibrate on the same resonance as it, would I be able to alter the stone? Would I be able to just something like to, I don't know, I thought it was interesting to think about that if you ultimately, an atom is 70% nothing. So if you're able to vibrate on that same frequency, you might be able to get that atom to condense, put it into place, and then change the frequency so it goes back. And it's just, I'm not saying it's very far out there thinking, but it's just, we keep looking at this from humans as a technological point of view. And it's a case of, they clearly didn't have the technology, but they were far technologically advanced than we are today.
Yes. But,
Well,
it's so funny. It's the organic technology is always going to be superior, and transmuting things, different particles into different things. And yeah, alchemy. This is it's a proven thing that has been talked about for thousands of years. So yes, we can alchemize things. And like when you talk about the gifts of Christ, of Jesus, this is, walking on water, healing the blind, raising the dead, producing miracles. These are all things that we are capable of. It's not something only some people have.
Outside
no, every
of us,
single
yeah.
one of us. Yes, but we don't believe it. We don't believe it
because you don't
We don't
tap
accept
into
it.
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
so your own system is blocking you from the reality of the potential of what you truly can do. Because if you could understand that you truly are one with God, which God is all particle, all potentials, that means you have access through that little part of that to the wholeness of that. So that means that you have information to all that exists. So
Yeah.
I mean, we just really haven't tapped into our potential because we don't believe we can do these things, and that's where we need to change
Is
that.
it that we've gone down to another level? Or one of my favorite examples is we're putting classrooms now. We're told to grow up. That doesn't exist. And I know this is not Egypt, but if you go and have a look at any pirate map pre-1800s, you're going to see a mermaid or a kraken. Now, they only had spiced rum back then, and the spice wasn't LSD, so it wasn't going to let them see these things. So is it that we were put into classrooms told to grow up, those things don't exist, so technically we changed our vibrational frequency, and thus therefore they stopped existing? Because people have been known to see Bigfoots, the Loch Ness monster. In Australia, it's the Yowie, even certain cats, panthers, even types of spirits that appear for short amounts of time and then they're gone. How do we know that this isn't some kind of dimensional dimensional divergence because we've changed our frequency?
I think that totally would make sense.
Well, another word for frequency or vibration would be temperature, because temperature is a type of vibration, because you're vibrating atoms, and the speed of it, the higher the speed, the higher the temperature. And one of the points of burying or keeping underground a complex as large and as intricate as Hawara would be to keep the frequency stable, to keep the temperature stable, because anything below like 8 meters stays at around 16 degrees Celsius year round.
Steve, slanted sleuth. Blah, blah, blah. That's a tongue twister when you're tired. Blah, blah.
Yes, it is.
Steve says, before I go, ask yourself why there are chambers both below and above ground connected to the pyramid. If filled with water, it would create a self-perpetuating resonant water hammer effect. Light shines.
Wow.
Never thought about that. Now, I know they deliberately build over water sources, or they build near water.
That's amazing.
So-
I mean, that's
so is he
really
saying that
amazing,
would-
because if there was water running underneath there in chambers with movement, and you produced a certain sound within the pyramid, because pyramid, the actual base structure, creates energy. It like draws in from the universe. That is the third. It's the third primordial like shape that forms our entire construct. So that could totally make magical things happen. Absolutely. That would be like lighting up a brain.
What was that shape again, Trina?
Well, the triangle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just the triangle. The pyramid itself is such a potent sacred geometry sign in our matrix of how everything builds, because that's the fire. That's the activator. It's the friction. Without the triangle, there's no fire. So, you know, first you have the circle, then you have the line, and then you have the triangle. So it's the trinity.
Exactly. And in terms of shapes, like the three-sided shape would be the triangle, and a four-sided shape would be the square, and the pyramid incorporates both of them.
Yes, circle, the square. Yes,
circle and the square.
Yes,
So,
there you go.
Based on the fact that we know that the shape of the pyramid itself, when properly constructed at a certain angle, has anomalous effects on matter that's placed within it and beneath it. What if this was done? What if they were always constructed above a source of water or above an aquifer for the purposes of somehow energizing that water that was beneath it, so that any wells that they dug around it from that same aquifer would have passed through that pyramid and become energized, for want of a better word, in some way. Because we know that if you put water inside a pyramid and you water plants with that water, that those plants will grow better.
That's what I mean. It's like a conductor.
If you've built the pyramid on a square slab over an energy spot, and then you've got the triangles coming up to the top, do you not have your square, circle, triangle, and then if you've got your entry point, you have your line?
Yeah.
That too.
Makes
That's
sense.
what I'm saying. It's like the primordial building blocks of matter is what I'm seeing. I'm seeing it is that significant, because that's what I'm seeing. When you add that water, that lights everything up. And then I see it activating almost like a brain. I wonder, consciousness.
Now see, Niall in here, he's got two statements here. And I would agree with him, or I would used to have agreed with him before I had some experience of my own, Niall. I think there's a whole lot more to this than this. But he says, this conversation takes on a different perspective when it seems the wonders of the world were just projects. Geologists would agree. They chose the wrong places. It was an attempt to terraform. And then he follows it up with, chances are, the engineers left for geological and atmospheric reasons. We did the rest.
Well, speaking of terraforming, it's interesting that the pyramid on Mars that they found in Sidonia is a five-sided pyramid, which we don't see anywhere on Earth. We don't see any five-sided pyramids. We also don't see any three-sided pyramids. So even though the three-sided pyramid would theoretically be an even more basic shape, except that we know that doesn't have any anomalous effects on the matter that's placed inside of it. So what's the significance of that? Why?
See, the Egyptians, though, Niall, they were so spiritual. They were so deeply connected to their what they felt was their origins and their roots. And I think it was a combination, probably a little of experimentation and terraforming, but at the same time, they did everything with a purpose. And everything was their spirituality in those days were center. See, for us, it's politics that's come center, or money that's come center. For them, everything was about their spiritual development and growth. That doesn't mean they didn't make mistakes or perform acts of weirdness sometimes. But the point is that for the most part, that was their worldview, was their connection with the cosmos and their connection with their inner spiritual development. And so they were into their gods and their goddesses, and they went to great length to create temples and throne rooms. And so I would think that they would approach their building projects the same way, not just from an engineering perspective.
Again, that could just be a cultural overlay from our own perspective.
True.
Because we don't really know what the purpose of that was. And there was a person in the chat who mentioned all these star forts that are also worldwide.
Star forts?
Star forts.
Yeah, I was...
Twilight mist.
Energy source and a purification programming sort of situation. It's also been noted by star forts, which are just as worldwide as the pyramids.
It's interesting because in my country, the most famous star fort would be Terezin, which was the Nazi concentration camp of Theresienstadt, and that's a star fort. That's a classical star fort.
What's a star fort? I don't even know what one is.
if you look at it in Google Maps on a map, it's shaped kind of. It has a regular shape with like it's a polygon with polygons coming off the sides, and it was intended as a defensive structure, or so the theory states. That they were built
Wow.
mostly like the 15th and 16th centuries, at least in Europe. Except that they were so large and so cumbersome to maintain that invading armies simply did the logical thing and just went around them instead of, barreling their way through them.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
I've got
Wow.
a pic of that real quick. Let me share this with you.
Oh, cool.
Because I was curious about that. Can you see that?
Yep.
Hmm.
Sure can.
Yeah, that's a typical star fort.
Mhm.
And the one in Terezin would be similar to that 5-sided one. That would be the second row, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, sixth picture. Fifth picture.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's like a pentagon with pentagons coming off the edges.
Aha. Interesting.
So our Pentagon
Yes.
is a star fort? Wow.
Mhm.
Yes,
And
it's
that's
I guess
incredible.
basically,
That's-
yeah.
Pittsburgh.
Well, now that's another interesting way to look at this. What if it's not a labyrinth at all, but some type of a fort? But then we don't have any other remains that we've ever
It's just like with the cultural overlay. I always point out, if archaeologists 50,000 years from now discover Disneyland, they're going to think we worshipped a giant mouse.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what? Since Lori got that message from her about
Yeah.
the possibility of that being an enormous library full of mysteries and information,
Ancient information. Some of it is
maybe it was
many
a fort.
hold ancient texts from Atlantis. I had a session with Eric this morning, Trina, and I asked him what he could tell me about it, and he gave me some information. But basically, it comes down to it being archival, ancient archive of information. Is what he told me. Can't prove that. It is what it is, but it
Could
was
be.
interesting. Yeah,
I mean,
it was very.
could be a lot
He
of
said
things.
many chambers, sublevels. It holds many archives from the past. That it has a lot to do with. He said it holds many secrets bigger than you can imagine. Each layer holds more information than a computer, held in hieroglyphs that have not been seen before, and it's all concept-driven information.
It's quite
Wow.
interesting that you said information within hieroglyphs, because
Mhm.
the hieroglyphs are a symbol, but is there information within that itself, within the
Yes.
actual markings?
Concept-driven information.
Yeah, the subconscious knows exactly what it means. You don't know, but your subconscious mind knows exactly what that means. That's very interesting. And when you were saying that, what I was literally seeing was some type of like crystal technology or some type of gold discs or something that they'd be able to
That's-
project through light, and it would
Yep.
literally open up like movies of what these symbols represent, and through that you would have a conceptual knowing of what that meant, and you would instantly understand the language.
Yeah,
Yeah, some of
that's
the
interesting
Egyptian
that you
symbols,
said that.
some of the Egyptian symbols were letters, but some of them were also like rebuses, which means
Yeah.
stories or concepts or
Yeah.
entire
Man,
words.
the synchronicity here between Lori's vision or message, some of the visions Mandy's been sharing with us, and some of the dreams that I've had. This goes clickety click click click, because it I know we're speculating here. Of course we are, but
It's
the
all
point
speculation.
is, the point is as a collective here, we're all getting the same information coming from different perspectives. But wow, what Trina just said makes sense now over the experiences that Mandy's had, I've had, Lori's had, probably you, Dalibor.
Yeah.
Yeah, possibly. Well, see, that's the thing. The other point of burying something underground would be to preserve it in case of a known coming global catastrophe. Like, let's say, not just a flood, but what if it was a solar event? What if it was a coronal mass ejection?
Yeah.
And
Well-
like, for example, the Göbekli Tepe complex, that thing is huge.
Yeah.
And that was potentially buried stone by stone by those people 13,000 years ago. In
And-
other words, they had enough time to prepare for this by
Mhm.
getting a human chain to like get all these stones there.
So are
and
we
bury
saying
it.
this is Fort Knox? It's built like a star fort. It's built
Sorry,
like the Pentagon. Go ahead, Mandy. Sorry.
No.
Just again, pirates, I know it's not Egypt related, but pirates used to bury treasure because there was a chance that it was
Absolutely.
going to be taken off them or that
Yeah.
something was coming.
Absolutely.
So they buried it so that no one else would find their treasure and they could come back at a later date and go, there it is.
And also, every
This
pirate
thing-
map also had an X on it. X marks the spot, and that
Right.
ties in with the X steganography.
Yes.
Interesting. Oh,
Well, also the
Wow.
port of Alexandria is very close to this site,
Yes.
which had massive major libraries as well. So
Yeah.
what a great place to take all the information to.
Mhm.
And the libraries of Alexandria actually kept the original information and handed
Mhm.
back a copy, didn't they?
Yes, they did.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So-
Yeah.
My heart
Yeah.
still hurts when I think about that burning down. I could just
Me
imagine
too.
what amazing things were in there.
turns your stomach, doesn't it?
Me too.
Yeah.
But what if they were in tune with the fact that they knew there were access points to this?
Well, see, I'm sure any kind of really important document that the people there came across would have been copied in many times. I'm sure there wasn't just one copy of any one document. If it
Like
was
I
a
said,
significant one,
You know-
it would have been copied. There were no copyrights
Yeah.
back then.
There was one other statement that he made that I forgot to tell you. He said, Eric told me that it holds great wisdom. They record using sophisticated hieroglyphs. Many different cultures, histories, and knowledge are recorded there, built in the 12th century by Seneferu. Yeah.
You got it. Sneferu.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sneferu, thank you. I had the
Oh,
other spelling. That's why I lost it.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Oh.
Thanks for helping.
We use
Wow.
hieroglyphs to this very day. I mean,
Yeah.
for example, if you take an apple with a bite out of it, that's a symbol of Apple, of
Sure.
a corporation.
Mhm.
We have other glyphs.
Logos.
Logos.
Icons.
Oh, so
Oh, you
very
guys.
symbolic. The apple with the bite out of it is what got Adam and Eve kicked out of the garden. Very symbolic.
Mm.
Yeah.
yes, it
Yeah.
is.
That was the
So-
intention with creating that logo, by the way.
Yeah.
I
Yes,
think it was.
Yeah.
And then they
logos that we use.
they
sorry,
sold the first one for 66666. So yeah, I think it was a pretty clear message.
Niall just said the structure of the universe mirrors the structure of a snowflake. Exactly. It is not a mystery. Biology is something else entirely. It's based on spirals. Yes, I agree. But also, so that spirals is, and that snowflake effect is also an energy pattern resonance as well.
Yes,
so
it is.
it's frequency. It's when you have the frequency intersect the light, what do you get?
Refraction of that energy.
Yep.
Mm. Wow.
Yeah.
Reflection, refraction, and movement, and
Yeah.
Yeah.
also magnification.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah, and the
a
snowflakes
droplet of
are-
water can magnify an image.
True.
True. True.
So
that.
with that
Water
then, does the
and water-
spiral getting bigger, going out exponentially,
Hmm.
Yes.
Well, that's cool.
is the universe. It expands. It's going out exponentially.
Hmm.
Yep. In
Yes.
fractals of itself.
Hmm.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep.
Well, I just need
fractals of
to
itself.
take a break here for just a second, y'all, because it's 10 o'clock. I just wanted to remind you what time it was. It's 10 o'clock. And Scotty Roberts usually starts his show on Wednesday nights at 10 o'clock. And there's a bunch of our folks that join both of us. So just a reminder to everybody, if you have to jump out and jump over to Scotty's, please do so. And we'll be wrapping up our discussion soon.
Yeah.
And we love you guys who have been hanging out with us. Barry, Doug, Audrey, they all jump on over to Scotty's, Michelle. And I'll be in there eventually, or if not, I'll catch the replay. Scotty, I talked to him today. He's coming back on at the end of the month to
great.
discuss
cool.
his expertise in a particular area that I want him to talk about. And he's written a book, and so we'll have a nice show with him. It's not part of Esoteric Egypt, but it's along the similar lines. So
Awesome.
he agreed today to come back on. So
I love the meatball.
Mhm.
So I didn't mean to cut you all off in the middle of it because I just wanted you to be aware of what time it was.
No worries.
But very quickly, before folks are leaving and heading out, I just want them to know there's no show this Friday night for Andromeda. Lori, you're going to be with your mom for that procedure, and we wish her the very best and send
Thanks,
you
everybody.
Support and love and healing for your mom for quick recovery.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and I know you're going to be with her all weekend, so no card reads either on Saturday.
Yeah, wah.
So family first, okay?
Yes. Got to take care of mom.
Absolutely.
Next Wednesday we will be back on though with a special from Jules's nephew, who's in a tribe, an Aboriginal tribe. He has a story of creation that he wants to share, a specific story of Dreamtime story of creation, which is beautiful. And it's about a portal. It's about a portal to other places, and particularly the United States. So that would be really cool. So he's going to be on with us. And then we've been working on those website updates really hard this week, Karen and I, and we've been, I think she's put in Nina's stuff already, her updates, and she's added NEXT. She's added Jules's nephew, Kieran. She's added a reference from Audrey Kaja Hammond, who's another expert in Egyptology, and she lives in Egypt and has local tour groups in Egypt. So we're going to be hearing from her, I hope, because I've been sending her messages.
Awesome.
And then she's putting in Slightly Slanted Steve's information. I sent her that.
That's great.
I sent her stuff on Michelle Free.
Wow.
To add her to the video section for her
Whole
videos.
tribes in there.
Kaz Hawk.
Wonderful.
And we're building we're building Audrey Roden in there because Audrey has her own store and her own shop, and Audrey can give updates to when some of these great conferences are going on, because she goes to all these darn conferences once they open up again, like Scaricon and Comic-Con, and so she can tell you all about them. And but actually she has her own line of t-shirts and mugs and things like that. So we're adding Audrey into the community section. And we're adding in Doug Stack is opening up his own business. So he'll be coming on, we hope, doing a showcase and telling us about his survival gear. And we'll add him in there because he's selling survival gear. And who else did I send her? I sent her Rocky Stucci Media's information as well, so that we have the media connections. Because there's a lot that we could be doing, a lot more we could be doing out there in the public to reach out and connecting. Even if you're doing a call-in, get your voice heard. Get out there and get your call-ins into these shows and speak your truth. Yeah, people need to know your truth. Yeah.
Either way, we are so locked down at the moment, and you know, we at the moment, technically, I should be wearing my mask under lockdown, but just because we're so locked down, we can't travel to other countries. Like, I really wanted to go see a pyramid, so I had to go see a dodgy one out in the back of Queensland, but I still got to see a pyramid nonetheless. So it's giving us a chance to really network, and those of us that are in other countries to go and start exploring and sharing that, and connecting, because it's quite interesting, because it might resonate with something that one of us have an opportunity to get a chance near and go have a look at, and we can start correlating these things and seeing if there's any like pattern, rather than like just one person traveling to this site and then the next site and then the next site and hoping that they see a pattern, because we all sort of trigger each other as well, which is good when we talk about these things. So that's what I'm really enjoying about this series.
It's awesome.
Well, anyway, I can't believe the time went by so darn quick, and I know Trina feels like but she was listening. So
thanks, Trina. You added a lot.
Because you added a lot. Yeah,
sure did.
Absolutely. And
always love that.
This was just a tickler for our show with NEXT next Friday, because we are really going to talk to him about some of his experiences inside. He's one of the first people that was ever permitted to go inside the Bent Pyramid, and so he made his video before.
He was also the protege of the famous John Anthony West.
That's right. Yeah.
And Christopher Dunn. So
both
well known.
Yeah. And his travel, his esoteric Egypt tours for mysteries, lost mysteries, and symbolism tours with Christopher Dunn. So Chris Dunn is with him on that, and so he has a lot to share with us next week, and I look forward to him coming on. So. Thank you all so this was just a teaser like a trailer for an even more in-depth discussion, because a lot of our questions that we asked today, Next has some insight on too.
Most
NEXT.
definitely.
Right on.
Yep.
NEXT.
And just,
All right,
just
everyone.
quickly,
Thank you
the
for coming.
interesting-
What's that?
The
What you got
interesting
there?
correlation between the shape of the I've got to get this right. The shape of the pyramids and some
Oh,
of the
yeah.
structures that the
Bismuth.
bismuth takes on is
Yes.
very,
Pyramid.
very
Automatically.
interesting.
Yeah.
Yes, automatically. So I found that really interesting, and I did just want to mention that. See, that would look more like a Vietnamese sort of, or a Thai kind of
Oh,
pyramid.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you got your
Wow.
Aztec-y looking one. So I just
Yeah.
find that quite interesting, and that forms naturally. So just
It
something I
is.
just thought I'd.
It
Yeah,
looks
that's
like
cool.
a 3D cityscape.
It
Yeah,
does.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's literally goes into a pyramid down the bottom where it comes.
Looks like something Mattel makes, for
So-
kids to play
Wow.
with.
Think about this for the next time. You don't have to answer it now, but think about this for the next time. When did we stop building pyramids? When did we start building things that were totally not
Well,
in
we have-
alignment?
We have the Transamerica Pyramid, the
I have
Empire
a
State
couple of
Pyramid.
those. Yeah, there's
the
a
Empire
couple,
State
but
Building has a pyramid on top.
You got the
technically
one in
speaking.
Tennessee that's a Bass Pro Shop now.
Got the Luxor in Las Vegas.
yeah, it's a hotel,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Casino,
Okay, so-
hotel.
But
And what
that's
about
the
a house
shape.
of cards?
That's the shape, not a function.
True.
When did we get away? When did we become to the what? Why was it that the industrial age took over square and rectangular?
I guess the same question would be in the same vein as when did we stop using huge stones to build our structures? When did we
True.
stop using megalithic architecture?
Oh, you mean like the cheap fabricated Tyvek that they put up now, and you go, and your house
Exactly.
blows down in the wind?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Uh-huh. Those
Yeah, when did
structures
we
were
become-
built to last.
When did we get more stupid? No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
Oh,
Don't get her started.
It's also interesting. I mean, as a person from Europe who used to live in the United States, I always thought it was kind of strange that in the United States people build their houses or residential houses out of wood.
Yeah.
And I came to the theory that it was a nation of immigrants, and none of these immigrants planned on staying there for very long. So they just built something really
Yeah.
quick, put it together.
Okay,
it pops up in
truth
6 weeks.
seeker. Truth seeker. Organized religion killed off pyramid architecture.
Hmm.
Wow.
If you look at these cathedrals, they are not pyramids.
No, they're
And
not.
domes.
They're
The way they're
squares.
constructed.
domes.
If you look at the way they're constructed for worshiping human,
Yeah.
not spiritual development and evolution, but out this way.
Mm-hmm.
A
Structure.
lot of the churches were built
Mhm.
to be able to create specific sounds. And that unlocks some sacred energies. So yeah, all of these things were built with intention. All of these
Vibration.
massive
Mhm.
buildings all have very specific intention for their design.
Yeah.
Not that wouldn't have, that much energy would not have gone into them if they did not have an importance.
Right.
So yes,
Yeah.
some of these big churches, even the one Notre Dame that burnt down, that church
Yeah.
is known for the sounds and the clock, and that's all about tones. That's why that one had a clock. It's all about the sounds they make. And you think about it when you go into these beautiful cathedrals and you hear people praying. I mean,
Yeah.
it literally echoes. I mean, it's a
It
massive
resonates.
sound.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
and a lot of these huge churches specifically had those ancient organs which produce specific vibrations. So
Yeah.
you can open portals with those sounds.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well,
Straight up.
That's just what had me wondering is you've got the stained glass windows, which have the light come through. You've then got the different resonance of sounds. And the other one that's quite interesting is they all have bells on them. All the old cathedrals, they have one of those big bells where you got to have 3 people pull the rope to make it move kind of bells.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So,
Sound is
Interesting.
important in creation.
It was an
It really
attempt
is.
at modulating sound and light through the stained glass windows and the sound qualities of the interior space. Because what they've demonstrated is that, for example, a lot of these structures, these churches had flying buttresses that you wouldn't get the same sound effects without those flying buttresses in place. That they weren't there for the purposes of keeping it up, for keeping it stable from the wind or whatever, but for generating that specific frequency.
Yeah, but here I would love to hear if there's been any studies on the frequencies they did produce.
Yeah.
Because if they're about programming with I just feel like the whole thing was all a show and all a way to control and program us like cattle. I'm sorry, but after years of studying it and being involved in different Christian organizations and churches, so they got away from the pyramid shape, which probably worked with the crystals and the sound and everything quite differently than what they're doing with their organs and their liturgy and the sounds and vibrations they created with the type of cathedrals they built.
Very powerful magic.
And not the kind I like.
Yeah.
The Egyptians had a lot of their gods symbolized as animals, whereas we symbolize a lot of our Christian gods, or quote unquote gods, as saints, which are humans.
Human forms.
So it's kind of like a temple of worship of man.
They had to stop sacrificing all those animals because they were basically taking them all out. So the priests decided that, hey, just an image is okay now. So we'll use the image and we'll stop sacrificing all the animals.
Well, I do think too, a lot of churches that the temple is a representation of the human body. And that's definitely true. I can show you a picture right here.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's manly, or that's the pineal gland. Pineal gland, the eye of God, by I think this is Manly P. Hall. Yeah. Yeah. Secrets of the pineal gland. So the body is definitely, a lot of temples were based off of the architect of the human body. That's why when you go into the high temples, you have the King of Kings and then the high holy temple, and there's different ones, and the highest one represents the pineal gland.
Well, see, Manly P. Hall was a Freemason, and there have been other Freemasons who've correlated Freemasonic symbolism in all these ancient structures, like the pyramids, like the pyramids in Mexico, like Göbekli Tepe, where you have a coding of the number 33, various Masonic symbols, the number 11. In other words, what I'm saying is that Masonry could very well be a lot older than just the 15th century.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh yeah.
This is where though I think certain things have been given different meanings, because like the prism in the eye in the prism, for instance, with the light rays coming out of it. If you actually have a look at your crown chakra, your throat chakra, and then what's a new activation center coming on, which is called your alto major, you get a triangle, and in the center you have your pineal gland, which is your eye, and when the information processes, then you get like the refraction of light.
Because the pineal gland actually lights up with piezoelectric crystals, and it literally produces an aura.
Wow.
Piezoelectric.
That's piezoelectric, right.
Quite interesting.
And also, anytime you have that symbolism, try to take note of which eye is it. Is it the left eye or the right eye inside that triangle? That's another thing to consider, because there's also a dichotomy between left brain thinking and right brain thinking, because the left brain controls the right eye and the right brain controls the left eye.
But wouldn't the third eye see both?
Yeah, that's why I was going to say thine eye be single, though. That's when you're balanced and you've activated the third eye. And usually that's not using physical vision anymore. That's when you're seeing with your spiritual sight. So it's a complete, it's a completely different realm of vision.
If you also have a look at where it is, so it's your throat chakra, which is your sound, your crown chakra, which is your connection to something higher, and then your alto major, which is actually at the back of the head. So it's the complete thinking and synergy plus what is your I'm no biologist, barely finished high school, what all of that stuff links to, and that there. So it's the ultimate, the three coming together, the etheric, like the something higher, it's the sound as well as something logical, like, but it's in the back of your head.
And
so
that's
like
what Jules's program, if you haven't seen Jules's program, it's Unlock the Clock. That meditation she was taking us through. She was explaining all those sections of the heart,
and
crown, and
those three centers that Mandy is speaking of, the sound, and then the back of the base of the skull, and then the pineal gland. That's literally, you're talking again the higher dimensions, because those are accessing your higher chakras, which can only be activated through spiritual practices and vibration, basically vibration.
The higher mind.
So it's literally your
vibration,
which goes back to the internal construction of the Great Pyramid. And the IN,
and the one within our mind,
and the three chambers.
And also, the throat chakra corresponds to the color blue, and the pineal chakra corresponds to violet.
Indigo.
But the crown chakra is ultraviolet, which we cannot see. So that ties in with what Trina, what you were saying with the second sight, which operates in a frequency range which we can't see right now with our eyes.
Yes. Absolutely.
And in South America, what was the color of that figure that was in the top of the chamber?
Was
for
blue.
the meditation was
purple.
Blue, purple, blue.
Yeah.
Well, purple,
So
blue. Yeah, there was both. There was purple, but the statue itself that they set on to meditate was blue.
Okay, so those of you who are close to me know I've had a lot of visions and dreams about eggs lately. I've just eggs, and then lots of eggs going on. I woke up this morning, went to my trash can, and I looked down and I found a purple egg.
Wow.
I have a
Easter.
Maybe the Easter bunny came early.
Easter.
I don't even know. One egg.
That's crazy.
Right next to where I have to put my foot to take my trash in. And it was sitting right next to her. One random purple egg.
I have a question. Do you have a crystal egg? Because they have those. Do you have one?
Yes, I do. My daughter bought me one years ago. It was from I think Japan, and it's an opal, but it's shaped like an egg. Yeah, I only have one. I think. Yeah. Yeah.
I saw a purple amethyst egg.
Oh wow!
In the window of one of the stores at the shop at the mall that sells crystals. And I saw that thing. I'm like, holy! It was this big. I swear, it was like 3 or 4 inches tall, and it was a perfect egg, and it was an amethyst.
Well, wow!
This is hematite, and it helps me with meditation.
Nice,
hematite,
cool.
Yeah, hematite is actually iron.
Yeah.
So this is perfect for like thinking about things like buildings, like iron, like cars.
And your different crystal shapes have a different meaning. So your egg is about a fertile idea. It's about bringing something to life, something anew. Your pyramids are about transmitting energy. So
you know, it's so funny too, Mandy. You just like made my brain click. I keep wondering, why am I having a lot of dreams about these eggs? And I just heard the primordial shapes for creation. The one that we don't often think about is the egg, and Easter is coming. This is time to really focus on the manifestation of dreams and create your seed, plant your, we're making eggs of creation. So that's profound. It's one of the shapes we kind of forget about.
True.
It's also similar to a pine cone or a rosebud, or the start of life, the blooming of life.
The pine cone is the pineal.
Yeah.
Which just takes on that egg-like shape, though.
It does.
And also, too, I keep hearing Isis. Wasn't her symbology also referencing an egg? And Ishtar, too.
Yeah,
you're right.
She did have the egg, yes.
I think
Ishtar
you're right.
That's where we get the Easter bunny laying an egg on Easter.
I'm telling you. Yeah, I'm telling you. Yeah, this is like important. They're like telling me about eggs, and then I'm finding eggs and dreaming eggs and getting golden eggs from dragons, and I got all this egg stuff going on. I'm like, what's going on with the eggs?
And ham going
I
on.
ate one this morning, Trina. Is that anything special? I ate one.
And I find that quite
Right
strange
on.
because on my birthday, I had felt the need to bury a crystal egg.
An egg.
Really?
That's right.
Yes.
Wow.
And then,
Right, man.
yeah. And then soon after,
Wow.
I found a really cool rock after that. So I kind of saw it as my birthday gift back. So
Oh,
That's
that's
so
cool.
awesome.
That's very cool.
What is Jules saying here? Jules is saying, inside of you, blood, zygote, the beginning from the other end.
The egg of creation, the
Uh-huh.
zygote. It's what's
Begins
before
with the zygote, yeah.
It begins with the baby starts its beginning as the zygote. Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Neil has a question for you guys. Do any of you know the origin of the word shaman? It is not an African or Eastern word. It is a combination of 3 ideas from Siberian Russia. Poet, priest, and doctor. Impossible to translate.
I love it. That's phenomenal. That's great information.
I did not know that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow.
if you listen closely, you can hear Jules flicking through her dictionary.
I hear the clicking of the pages.
You hear
now.
Just the pages. Just yeah.
We'll have an answer for you soon, Niall.
Thank you.
Right.
Yeah, now, well, the origin. See, shamans they did have shamans in the Middle East. But maybe they just didn't use the word.
They've been around forever. That's what they called the medicine man, the woman who would heal out in the backwoods. But a lot of them were called witches, and they were actual shamans, but they were being deemed as witches. Shamanism.
But I think he's asking about when did we start using the word shaman as English? That's Jules. We'll get back to you.
I don't know.
Good question.
Because it is. I have no idea.
She a man. Shaman. She a man. A man.
I first heard of it through the in the jungles and in the Native American practices. Those are the Indians. Those were the first times I'd ever heard shaman. But I don't know if that's its origin. I don't know.
The native Siberians, the Chukchi people, have shaman.
Ha.
Okay. See, yeah. I know
Siberian shamanism is where we get the Santa Claus symbolism, because that's red and white, and they also practice the use of fly agaric, and fly agaric is a psychoactive mushroom that's red with white dots on it, and that's where
what the Smurfs lived under, who were blue.
It's fly agaric.
Smurfs.
The Smurfs so was Krishna, and Krishna also wore a white turban. So that does tie in.
And quite interesting, because Gargamel was trying to turn them into gold, wasn't he?
I believe so, yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. And he had a cat named Azrael, and Azrael is one of the demons of the Goetia, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Azrael ravished the land
yes.
as never before, total destruction from mountain to shore.
Yeah, bad one, yeah.
Hey, Dalibor, if somebody, and I know we can get to you through the Crystal Network, and I know that you're on Skype, because I Skype with you.
Sure.
Do you also have email? Because I sent you email at Gmail.
Oh yeah.
So it's Sun Rabbit. I can't remember because I always type it. It comes up automatically for me. Is it Sun Rabbit? What's your email?
It's more complicated than that. It's a German word.
Oh yeah.
But I guess we can put it in the show notes.
Okay, so.
But if you just look up my name on Skype, you'll find me instantly.
Skype?
I'm in Germany.
Skype?
Yeah,
Okay.
I live in Germany.
Right.
I'm a Czech dude living in Germany
Right.
momentarily. But yeah, I speak fluent English, Czech, whatever.
Because so if Niall goes to, well, we can put it in here as a link, right, Lori? His email, Dalibor's email. But
sure.
if he goes to Queen of Quartz or network, crystalnetwork.com,
I also have
a section, yeah.
I have a section there, and I also have a Minds page that I post various things to, but on a more or less infrequent basis because nobody reads it. Nobody goes to Minds.
The Queen of
Yeah,
Hearts
but
link is
imagine-
in the description.
Imagine the chats those two could have.
No kidding.
Niall with Dalibor. Imagine the magic and the conversation those two guys could have. Okay. All right. So anyway, we got to wrap up. It's 10:27. We've kind of let it go over because it was fun and it was a great discussion. And thank you all very much for coming and really appreciate your time. And panelists, you too. It makes it a whole lot more fun when we get all these ideas going out there. And it's just, a fascinating topic. A lot of speculation, but a lot of fun. And
fun.
Yeah.
Fun to speculate.
Gets you thinking,
It does.
I think there's a lot to be said for.
It doesn't just get you
connection.
thinking, it gets the imagination going, which to feel that as an adult is beautiful because we don't often get to feel this, especially in the day and age of paperless and coronavirus and all these other things. It's good to have the imagination running wild.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Johan, I told everybody at 10 o'clock to jump over to Scotty's. He starts at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
So he's going right now. So head on over there.
Live.
He's live. Okay.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you later and have a good evening.
Peace out. Love you.
Bye.
Later.
Bye.
Bye.